All right, I'm on today with Miss Sonnie Johnson. She's the host of Sonnie's Corner on Sirius XM Radio. How you doing today, Sonnie?
Blessed and highly favored. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, it's always good to chop it up with you. You know, another political junkie. So we just wrapped Black History Month yet again, which is always interesting in a political space. I mean, it's the reactions on it between Democrats and Republicans are always wildly divergent. Similar to how we approach race issues in general. I feel like right now Democrats are still in a phase where they like to use race issues as sort of a cudgel against their political opponents, whereas you got a lot of people on the conservative side of the aisle who refuse to even acknowledge race and are just sort of tired of talking about it. Black History Month is just sort of another example of that, where, you know, there are a lot of questions about why do we still have Black History Month? Why are we still talking about this? Why is it a necessity? That also overlaps with other events like the Super Bowl that came up this year. So there was a lot to cover in terms of what happened during the course of that 29 days, because we had an extra one because of that leap year, because it's a leap year. You know, what are some of your takeaways from what you observed this year during Black History Month?
There's a lot more Black conservatives that are, we outnumber the prototype, right? I think for the first time, we really outnumber the Black faces. So you had a lot more Black conservatives who know Black history, who understand it, who get the context, who knows its place. And those people were a lot louder this year than any of the Black faces that would normally come out and start, with the dumb shit, talking about why, you didn't have that many of the Black faces doing it this year, comparatively to the last couple of years. So to me, that's what I really started to notice, that we had a bigger pushback over Lift Every Voice and Sing being played at the Super Bowl than we did about Black History Month as a whole. And I think that is really a change over the last couple of years. And so I take it as a little small mini victory that a lot more Black conservatives are uppity, and a lot more Black conservatives are actually learning history, some of the parts they didn't know, and maybe allowing themselves to rethink the way it was taught to them. And so to me, that's been the beauty of it all. I get to do my favorite thing, and that's, share Black history during Black History Month. So when, I share it all year, but, it's special when it's actually Black History Month. So, and I just had amazing spaces this month. We had some amazing conversations. We covered and are still covering Nanny Helen Barrows, the 12 things the Negro must do for himself. So we are looking at the historical context of when that was written, as opposed to how it is today, and what things we would keep the same and what things we would change, and also how we look at a specific piece of literature or history, and in our diagnosis, we understand, are we diagnosing this as a societal issue, or are we looking at it as a political issue? Because those two things become very, very different and convergent when you're having a conversation. So this is one of the things we always say about conservatives. They will start talking about, work ethic, or pulling yourself, or being a good father, or this, that, or the other. None of those things you can legislate. So why are you bringing those things up in a political context? Because it sounds like you're having more of a societal conversation instead of having a political one. A political one goes to where actual policy can come out of the discussion. If you're having a discussion about things where policy cannot solve that problem, that's not a political discussion. It's a societal one. And so we need to start understanding that in terms of when people are responding to us and they want to bring up societal questions, when we are having political discussions, and they don't think we're smart enough to understand the difference. So that's my major takeaway that I really got out of this year's Black History Month.
And I feel a little bit of what you're saying. I mean, it's been a frustration of mine over the last couple election cycles. We saw in 2018 Republicans underperform in the midterms. We saw 2020 Republicans underperform again. Trump lost to Biden. 2022 underperforming. I think there was a special election last year. Underperformed. There's this consistent pattern. When we get to the election, the results aren't what we wanted, right? But when we look back at the things that a lot of us who have like major types of profiles, a lot of followers, a lot of engagement, when we look at the content of what we're putting out and what we're talking about, it seems like I really understand better now what you always talk about with people chasing bouncing balls and focusing on things that aren't going to drive the political discussion, things that aren't going to increase voter turnout, things that aren't really educating people on the policies and issues that we need in order to fix these communities that we say we care about. So let me ask you this. So if you, let's just say you were an activist or a commentator whose primary role was to bring in people and help grow the party, what would an average day look like on your social media page?
In terms of what? For what party? For Republicans? Or
yeah, let's just say
you have to give me a specific party. Yeah, I could, because it might look different between Democrats and Republicans, right?
Okay. So I feel like each party sort of has their own things that they sort of focus on that are kind of distractions. So let's do it for each. What would you lean toward if you were on the conservative side of the aisle and had that role? And then also, what would be your policy priorities and things that you would be posting about if you're on the Democratic side of the aisle?
If I were on the Democratic side of the aisle, I would just be posting about race. That's it. Because I don't know what else they have. And that's just me being honest, right? I don't know what else they have. I, in good conscience, as a Black person, a Black American that loves other Black Americans, I would not be posting about abortion. I would not be posting about more gun laws. Like these things, there's no way I could post coming from them, So if I had to, if I was forced to, it would be what they do. It would be race all the time, because what else could you actually do? If I were a Republican, and this comes from hearing a little snippet of one of Trump's speeches, and he said something, and I heard it, and it turned me off. And now I'm thinking I may not be voting at the top of the ticket at all come November, because he said, when we get in, I am going to work with Democrat mayors to stop the crime in these cities. You're going to do what now? So again, Black people, nothing is going to change for you. If you are in any of these areas, he's not. The Republicans are not going to come. They're not going to take over. They're not going to fight. No, they're going to work with the Democrats that already screw you over. That sounds plausible. So right now, I think that that's what I am going to be shaping my current messaging around, is I will be carpet bombing Trump, because I think that that is one of the most ignorant things that I've ever heard. And specifically, if you remember when I went to the White House, it's specifically what I said, that the only options we have are left or further left.
The Black community is not doing okay. Like, I understand the perspective and the desire to put out this talking point, but it's not, okay? And I can do it in a simplistic way of just saying, what are the first things you did when you first came into the presidency? The very first things you did was like remove regulation and taxation at high levels. Think about the Black community that has been under Democratic rule, progressive rule for 60 years. How many rules, how many regulations, how many different forms of taxation are on the books in those areas that are preventing our communities from actually being able to see sustainable growth that we can keep and get ourselves out of this tread of generational poverty? We are not okay when it comes to things like education, because we are not able to get quality choice into our communities, because we don't have any position or power within our school boards to be able to fight for those things, and not just to get charters in, but to also bring some kind of reformation to the public school system as it stands too. So yes, as well well as criminal justice reform and a lot of other things, as well as health and things we could put down the list. All of these things have been under Democratic control for 60 years. And they are not going to change until we have a Republican Party that is willing to go into these communities and actually offer a choice to these people about how we can do things differently. Because the way it is structured now, the only choice that we get is left or either further left. And we're not getting the opportunity to actually vote on what we look at as conservatism equally applied. The very basic economic principles that we on the right say are significant in our success and seeing the success in our country, those are not being offered at the local level in Black communities. So basically, we're asking to grow out of concrete because we don't have the fertile soil in these areas to make everything flourish and bloom the way my generation would like to see it. So I think the numbers and statistics about my generation are not going to be out for 20 years. You're not going to see that we have started to change the dynamic within families. We have started to change the dynamic within marriage. We have started to change a lot of the negative dynamics that are still brought up in statistics today involving us. Our generation is working on making sure those things change. And nobody looks at us and sees the power we have to be effective in making change this generation and not just waiting for the next layer of statistics to come out. So until we can actually get an honest dialogue on the right out into the ether, then you're going to keep on having, the fake news media spread lies because we aren't there giving another choice as to how these things could be done. And it's going to continue to go left if we aren't there giving an option to make it go right. And that's like the biggest thing that we're having trouble with on the right is like understanding how government works. We are a republic. That means local government has the most power over citizens' lives, as well as how to take that and put it into a cohesive message that can be spread to the Black community that will already engage upon what we already know. If we looked at like the photos of you before you became president and you were taking pictures with Snoop and you were taking pictures with all the icons of hip hop. You did that, I think, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, but you did that because you saw capitalists. You saw branders, you saw entrepreneurs, you saw people that were willing to take a chance and make things grow. That is us. That is the Black community. And I would like to see a challenge from you to see how many in the Black community can put their names on the side of a building coming out of this. If we're really going to reshape and reform the way that we do this, issue that challenge because that's what we need more now than ever. And we need it to be focused and centric on the Black community, not into letting people come in and gentrify areas that are traditionally ours.
And we need a conservative option. And he just basically said there is no conservative option coming. We're just going to work with the people that have their boot on your neck. We're just going to keep the death, poverty, and destruction, and we're just going to flirt around the edges. And I don't think that that is acceptable terms. So that's where you're going to see me tweeting in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, we've already had 100 years of Democrat policies in these areas, and we see what the outcome is. So I don't understand why the messaging wouldn't be to have a hyper-local focus on these elections and try to get these people out who are responsible for having the government's boot on these local communities for so long. I mean, look what's happening with Maj. You got state law that says one thing, but then they have these local policies at the local level that are in violation of state laws. Yeah.
Then what was the point of taking over the RNC?
Well, I mean,
what was the point?
Yeah.
What is your intention? What did you accomplish? You're not looking to build differently or to create new coalitions. You're not looking for voluntary association. So what was your point?
Well, that's still changing of the guards at the national level, though. Like what grassroots operations are going to be built out now? Like I think the question to ask is what's going to be different now that the leadership at the RNC is different? Is anything going to change? Is there going to be any real outreach to these areas?
Even the messaging from the top. And this is it, because it's a basic acknowledgement, right? The biggest problem Trump has with Black voters is the reputation of the Republican Party. That's it. That's the biggest problem that you have. Acknowledge that that's a real thing, that split and that divide is real. But that's why you took over the party, because you don't like the split. You don't like, I mean, does this not just make political sense? Why do it if this wasn't your intention? Or why not capitalize on the messaging if you've already done it? So it takes you back to thinking, okay, you are really dealing with political novices who are not looking at really saving our country, just biting us over for another 4 years, because it's not going to do anything to change the trajectory. If you understand that the Democrat stronghold is in the urban city, and they are and one of the reasons they were able to maintain the stronghold is because of their Black voter support. Now they are losing their Black voter support. Your answer to that is to help them get it back. How does that work, Adrian? How does that make sense? You fucked everything up. I'm going to come in, help you fix it, and then you get to keep. How does that make sense? How does that make any political sense?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, if nothing changes, it really doesn't. The numbers show that, I mean, this year, Black Americans are probably more primed than ever to vote for Republicans. I mean, Biden won 2020 with 87% Black support. Those numbers have cratered. I mean, he's down to 63% support right now, but there's not really an indication that Black people en masse are enthusiastic about voting for Republicans. Now, there are signs that we're going to come around and vote for Trump. But like Pastor Scott said a few weeks ago online, that there's nothing showing that that's going to translate down ballot. So given that this is an election year, we're already in March.
Past this election cycle.
I mean, given that we're only
translate past this point in time, because you haven't built anything. You haven't created any infrastructure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trump is going for the cheap legacy. He's going for the quick tingle and not the long-term designation, right? And you would think a man with an ego his size would understand the difference from a momentary victory and a long-term legacy. And it doesn't seem that that it's clicking to him that is truly on the line, you know? And maybe that's just because he is, facing so much stuff personally that it doesn't allow him the time and space to consider the big abstract of it all. But hey, somebody needs to bring it to his attention, because just because he's trapped in his own world doesn't mean he gets to stay there without his bubble popping.
Well, Rauna's departure from the RNC is only effective this week after Super Tuesday, so there's still time. And I know that there's some things in the works behind the scenes as far as building out advisors and teams of people who are going to be working with Trump on some of these initiatives. So do you think, given that we're already in March, there's still time to turn the ship around for this election cycle?
Of course, but they're not going to do what's necessary. That's the problem. I mean, you've already heard him say what is necessary is, when I said make America great again, I meant all of America. I meant all of it. Even these blue areas that have been under Democrat control for 100 years, I meant you to. Like, that is supposed to be the message, that it really is an all-inclusive deal, that it's not white supremacy or white nationalism or whatever it is. But if your first response is, yeah, well, we're just going to help those people keep you where you at, that's not making America great again. That's giving us more to say.
And who knows if that'll be what actually transpires. I mean, Trump is notorious for being imprecise, and a lot of times what he says isn't exactly what he means. So,
no. I know what my ears heard. Okay. So that's what was said. Yeah. We're going to operate off of what was said and not what we assume, because these people know better. And maybe if he didn't assume things like property values, he would. Never mind. Go ahead.
So let me
That
finish.
was a cheap shot. That was unnecessary.
No, it's all good. So, I mean, what do you think about the Supreme Court victory? So, Democrats are obviously going to destroy the country. I hate to just be so blunt and say it, but I mean, it's just what's going to happen if they secure power again. I mean, one of their key targets is one of the institutions that, well, really the last institution they don't control, which is the U.S. Supreme Court. We had that ruling come out yesterday saying Trump can stay on the ballot in all of these states. They can't throw him off over concerns over violating the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. You know, Democrats lose their minds and respond with calls to, again, abolish the Supreme Court, change it fundamentally, pack the court. What's your response to these people? Every time they don't get their way, they want to go to the court or weaponize the court or change the fundamental systems of democracy to benefit them. I mean, should this be a big warning sign to everybody in the country that's planning on voting this year?
No, it's not. They know they're gonna lose. They know, and again, this is why I was having this conversation, and I know I'll repeat it here on your show. As this is why I think they keep Biden in that spot, why they keep him running, right? Currently, all of the Democrat coalitions are fractured. Right? They have these big gaping crevices, whether you're looking at their teacher unions and the parents, they have a gap. Whether you're looking at either in black and white, where race is are we going to talk about race or are we going to talk about class? That fight is right there. You have the Muslim and Israel fight, right? Gaza, that we want a ceasefire. No, Israel has the right to defend. Like, these things are creating chasms. And a majority of these groups are groups that Democrats win overwhelmingly. So we're talking 60, 70, 80%. If they start losing and have to choose between these groups, they're not going to have the kind of coalition that allows them to continue to win at the federal level, right? Now, will they cheat or will they say, get rid of the electoral college or, things like that? Yes. But it still comes down to the system we have and the numbers that matter. And they are just at a point right now where their coalitions are not gelling. Their coalitions are breaking apart, right? So they are going to have 4 years, regardless of who wins in 2024. They're going to have 4 years to decide how to realign the Democrat Party, what it looks like, what coalitions will be most prevalent, what coalitions will be, raised up and protected, and which ones will kind of be pushed to the side. They're going to have 4 years to make that decision. What are Republicans doing while they're doing that, right? So you see these coalitions fractured. You see all of these people are looking for a new home, and you are not building new coalitions. You are not doing outreach. You are not creating permanent infrastructure. You are not doing anything that a political party that was really serious about not only getting control, but maintaining it for more than just a 1 or 2 term presidency, actually having institutional control. So when you start looking at things like that, you will notice just at the Supreme Court, that's not going to be enough. They have to have something to bitch, moan, and cry about. Their party is completely fractured. Right now, the thing that is sustaining the Democrats is their presence within the bureaucracy. And that matters more to them than anything. So when you're looking at all of these people that are walking out in protest of Biden supporting Israel from inside our government, that starts to show you those people are still going to be there even if Trump gets elected. Like, those people don't leave with Biden. So that is their stronghold, right? So if we're going to be looking for where their attack is going to come from, if they're going to try to do something really, truly detrimental, I think that attack is going to come from the bureaucracy and not through the courts.
So real quick, for anybody who is undecided right now, not even just in terms of the presidential slate, but also down ballot candidates or whether or not they're going to vote at all, there's a lot to focus on right now in the media, and there's going to be a lot more that comes up throughout the course of the year. What is your message to those people who are disheartened with the whole process and how the U.S. political landscape is right now, and are on the fence about if they even want to participate? What's your message to get them to go out and be a part of the process? And then as far as any other message you would communicate directly to them regarding that?
You get the process you deserve. And maybe the reason that the process is the way it is because you're not participating. Did you ever consider that? We gotten very, very, excuse my French, we have gotten very fucking lazy as Americans and thinking that what we have is a given and not a gift, and that it'll always be here and it doesn't need to be fought for. It doesn't need to be defended. And there's a lot of people that are walking around happy to be a part of the silent majority while the loud minority rules. That's not a dynamic that can continue to stand. So as long as you have people that are wishing and hoping and crossing their fingers that something changes, instead of actually going out and being a part of what makes things change, then you're not taking it seriously. So that's why in a lot of what I do, I might not be the most popular, because this one talks about that one. But the people who come up under me, I dare you to test any of them. I dare you to try any of them, because I make sure they are fed properly. Their armor is shining, their weapons is sharp, their tactics are effective and efficient. And it's going to be a new breed in this fight. So I would suggest that people to figure out how to pull out the uppityness inside of you. Let that lead you. Figure out exactly what you believe in and go and activate, right? And I'll throw this out there because white conservatives and Republicans always say, Sonnie, how can we help? How come just joining your local GOP is not enough? Go join your local GOP. So when a Black person shows up and your ignorant lily white cousins want to act a fool, you could be one sane white person in the room that lets Black people know that it's not the entire fucking party. It's just a couple of your cousins. Just your presence can do that. So get active. Go join your local GOP. Figure out what you believe in. Figure out a space on the battlefield you want to fight for, you want to defend, and you want to attack the other side, and then get to work. Nothing is going to change with wishes and prayers. Not prayer, God ain't going to do for you what you can do for yourself. So you can pray to God, but all he's going to do is give you the strength to get the hell up and go fight yourself. If you don't take that strength to go and fight, then you just wasted a prayer.
Real quick, I just want to have you clarify one thing. So for anybody who may not know, what did you mean when you said lily white?
That's the brand of the offshoot inside of the Republican Party that does not want Black people to have any kind of presence within the party, and they've already started to rear their head. I call them basically the three lily white, the trio, the lily white trio right now, and that is the Charlie Kirk, the Jack, you can say his name, and Matt Walsh, and you had them three kind of in tandem. Each supporting the other's assault on Black people in a time when Black people are fleeing the Democratic Party, saying the most anti-Black rhetoric that is possible to make sure Black people do not look at the Republican Party. So those three are out. Strangely enough, ever since Darrell Scott got into that ass, a lot of them have been quiet, and you don't hear them mentioning Black people so much. So fight back, get uppity.
All right. And for anybody who doesn't know where to find you, where can people find you if they want to yell at you online, Sonnie?
Always, only on X. If you are following some other account on another social media, it's not me, and you're getting fooled. So I'm only on X at Sonnie Johnson, SONNI. IE. And every single Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern, you can catch me on Sirius XM channel 125 for Sonnie's Corner.
Nice. And I do check out your space. That Sonnie holds a space every Monday on X. What is it? Is it 11 a.m.?
It's the Thunderdome. We have the Thunderdome every single Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern on X. If you got beef, you got something to say, you want to put me in my place, I'm too uppity for you, I'm a little bit much of a rebel rouser, you can find me there. But if you really want to just come, hear dope conversation, hear some intellectual thought, have your mind open up to some different political philosophy and concept, we do that on the Thunderdome. So we are a bit nerdy. We ain't gossiping, we ain't talking about people, but I promise you will walk away having learned something.
Well, there you go. You have it. You heard it from the source, Sonnie. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Always.